Hello, guys. Welcome to a new edition of Mind Podcast. This is Aadit Kapadia, and with me is my compadre Pramod Kumar Buravalli. Hello, Pramod. How are you
Hi.
doing?
Good, Adit. Bolo. How are you
Bus.
doing?
First of all, I view. I owe a little bit of apology to our viewers and listeners. Unfortunately, we were not been able to have a Mind Podcast episode last weekend. The reason being we had two panelists lined up, and unfortunately, both of them one by one got sick because of the whole COVID Omicron situation and all that. And uh, we wish them the best of health, and they're doing well and recovering well as well,
Yeah.
but unfortunately we just it just couldn't happen. So but we're back with a podcast, and after rescheduling twice, I was like, maybe this week just it won't happen. So I guess you all understand we're all going through the pandemic together, so we know that there is a little bit of a issue involved, but we wish that everybody is doing well, and we wish the best of luck for their health and everyone. And mind makers, including our panelists, everyone seems to be doing well as well. So fingers crossed. um Pramod, what a fantastic week! What a fascinating week! The reason I ask is it's from national, international, sare news. आ गए अभी. So we'll start with the. We're going to talk about election news. We're going to talk about the state elections. We talked about Uttar Pradesh We did a 47-minute episode on Uttar Pradesh. So please go into that, and I'll do a detailed episode on Punjab. Uttarakhand and Manipur and Goa as well. I have also done a couple of episodes on with Kushal on Goa and Punjab. So you feel free to check out. I mean, we've been doing a lot, but on Mind Makers we're going to do detailed political analysis on those as well. But I want to talk a little bit about the Punjab elections with Pramod, and then move on to what is happening in mini Punjab, which is Canada. Abhi, and then talk a little bit about what is happening in United States and everything. I mean, this is going to be a short 35-minute podcast because planning to do another one on the budget this week. So we're trying to keep it. So we won't talk preview the budget on this because we're going to review the budget. More like a day after, so that's the plan. So without further ado, Pramod, any initial thoughts? Kya ho raha hai duniya mein? What's
Well,
going on?
I was happy seeing the Republic Day parade for the umpteenth time, and
Yes.
this time it's very special because of the canopy,
Hmm.
the fervent appeal of many people was heard by the Union government, and they decided to start with a hologram. But the most deserving person is going to occupy the canopy for the foreseeable future, which is Subhash Chandra Bose. I've always felt he was one of the main freedom fighters who helped us achieve our independence.
Hmm.
And then the display and the changes that are subtle changes in the narrative that are being made. I want major changes, but being me, I want everything done right now. But looks like they have their own timing and slow things, the colonial vestiges of the past that are
Yeah.
very much staring at your face, and you still are tolerating it, right?
No, no. So you brought back a very important point, right? And this is amazing. This is why we love taking diversions in mind podcast. I completely forgot to mention the whole Subhash Chandra Bose controversy. I was
Yeah.
planning to cover it last week, but because we couldn't have a podcast last week, we forgot to talk. So maybe we'll talk about that before we get into election. Pramod, I saw so many, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you short, but I want you to add to this. I saw there is a Scottish historian. There is so many people, right? Start talk about that Bose met Hitler and so forth, and somehow tried to put the whole Bose is a fascist sort of thing, and that's why Bose was not taught in school and stuff. And I mean, we've all said it from the rooftops that we condemn Hitler in, I mean, in the strongest possible terms. He was the enemy of humanity, and I mean, the Allies absolutely should have fought him, and what they did was correct. But the problem is the analysis of Bose is absolutely incorrect, right? Because he is a firm patriot, and in his mind he was meeting the enemy of the enemy to defeat the enemy, which is the British. For Indian people, not only do they have problems with what Hitler did, they also have problems with what Winston Churchill did in the Bengal famine. But where the West rightfully condemns, bashes Hitler, they only heap praise on Winston Churchill. They rarely talk about that. So instead of bashing Churchill, what they did was they just conflated Bose in this whole thing. not even looking at what Indians feel about Subhash Chandra Bose.
This was the tweet from Myra McDonald that you're talking about,
Yeah,
right? The lady conveniently forgot that the British sided with Stalin, the person that they hated the most in the world, who
yeah.
annihilated about 7-8 million of his own people before siding with him in an effort to take on the so-called fascist Hitler. तो वो लोग कर सकते हैं, एनिमी ऑफ द एनिमी को फ्रेंड बना सकते हैं और यूज कर सकते हैं, और वही स्ट्रैटेजी अपने बोस बाबू ने किया, तो वो नहीं चलेगा. अच्छा, तो ब्रिटेन की बात करें. Let's talk about William Wallace, the warrior that was shown in the movie Braveheart. He was a Scottish independence hero who sided with Robert the Bruce, who eventually became the King of Scotland. ठीक है? अब William Wallace ने क्या किया? He fought valiantly for Scottish independence. He got killed. Even today, Robert the Bruce is considered a hero, but William Wallace is still considered as a kind of like a villain. ठीक है? वही यूनाइटेड किंगडम में, वेयर बोथ ऑफ देम शुड हैव बीन एडमायर्ड फॉर व्हाटएवर दे स्टूड फॉर. एंड कल को क्या पता, स्कॉटलैंड कुड बिकम एन इंडिपेंडेंट कंट्री इन दिस डिकेड, एंड विद आयरलैंड एंड द सो कॉल्ड यूनाइटेड किंगडम वुड नो लॉन्गर एग्जिस्ट. तो क्या करेंगे? किसको हीरो बनाएंगे, किसको नहीं हीरो बनाएंगे? ये बताएंगे क्या हमको? They will tell us that you shouldn't be apolitical when it comes to Vivekananda, when it comes to Sardar Patel, when it comes to Veer Savarkar, when it comes to many people, Udham Singh, Bhagat Singh, and now also most importantly Subhash Chandra. There's a political consensus, at least when it comes to Subhash Chandra Bose and Ambedkar. ये दो लोगों को छोड़ दिया सभी लोगों ने.
No, not just that. So I think there is a misrepresentation on also what the relationship of Bapu was with Subhash Chandra Bose, right? Gandhiji and Bose disagreed with each other on various issues, but were not disrespectful to each other. Which I mean, a Twitter generation would do well to know what this relationship means, because I hope we have that in our lives also, where we disagree with each other, with everyone you want, but does not be disrespectful, right? Like, so I think that is the relationship Gandhi and Bose shared. Now they talk about Nehru and Bose, and maybe Nehru and Bose did not share the same level of cordiality that Bose shared with Gandhi or Patel. That could be the truth, but using that and extrapolating to saying that कि बोस को इसीलिए स्कूल में पढ़ाया नहीं जाता था, यार मतलब अब 2 टेक्स्ट बुक उठा के मतलब सारे 543 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स को के लिए एक्स्ट्रापोलेट करोगे क्या? एंड द ग्रेट लिबरल होप ऑफ वेस्टर्न लिबरल होप ऑफ द media is Mamata Banerjee. Why don't they say to tell her कि Bose, they think Bose is a fascist, and see what happens in West Bengal? Because clearly Bose is not that. Bose is a he's a patriot. His views of Indian independence, Swaraj, I mean, they're fascinating views, and one can disagree with specific views, but not with his I don't know how to translate this, but not with his jazba.
No, and everybody is to be blamed. Don't get me wrong here. The one thing is that they have not been able to seize the narrative to write or rewrite history fully, because they're not interested in it. They think that we will outgrow everybody to the extent that people will forget about everybody else. Then they suddenly, at the end of the day, start realizing their mistake and come back and revisit and pay obedience to the same leaders. अरे जब 2014 में इलेक्शन जीत के आए, तब तो ट्रूथ एंड रिकंसिलिएशन कमीशन डालना था टू explore all of these aspects and rewrite history in the right way. Acknowledge that there are so many people that have to be acknowledged, and then suddenly they start giving Padma awards to Sundar Pichai or Satya Nadella, who have nothing to do with this. एक तरफा, you have redeemed yourself by bringing in Subhash Chandra Bose back to the fore, and all of these great contributors, इतना अच्छा काम करने के बाद, 90% अच्छा काम करने के बाद, आदित फॉरगेट इवन सत्या नादेला, बुद्धदेव भट्टाचार्य जी, उस आदमी ने जितना बंगाल में बीजेपी लोगों को कितना हरास किया, किसी ने नहीं किया. ज्योति बसु ने भी नहीं किया था आदित, एंड उसको अभी पद्म. अरे यार, ये नॉट वर्थ इट. देयर आर हंड्रेड्स एंड थाउजेंड्स ऑफ पीपल. सुभाष चंद्र बोस वाज एक्सीलेंट मूव, नोबडी क्वेश्चंस इट. हर एक घर में लोग अप्रिशिएट करते हैं सुभाष चंद्र बोस के कंट्रीब्यूशन को, भगत सिंह को, गांधी जी को भी. all of them contributed in their own independent way. They may or may not have agreed on the approach. लेकिन everybody wanted to be free from the British, and everybody gave up their entire lives and fortunes to do whatever it is necessary to do it. And
parts of it, right? कि whether India should debate both internally or not, और दूसरा है external. What the hell does the West have the right to say कि हम लोग
they
बोल रहे हैं
don't.
कि both नहीं है? That is my point.
When it comes to them, you should always take criticism with a pinch of salt and throw salt back at them in such a manner that they will always, taste salty. Dekho, they have no right to sermonize and tell us what and who we should pray and what we should commend and commemorate. हमको वो पूरा knowledge है कि उनका क्या contribution है हमारे narrative में, and the continued help that they are doing to breaking India forces. But I'm just saying that for our own posterity's sake, for our own people, our own children, initiative, they have done a spectacular job by bringing Bose back to the center, into the narrative. No question about it. Bengal mein that will reap rich dividends, as anticipated by them politically also. No question about it. Lekin the whole debate will never be set aside when you are not able to debate everything, including Mahatma Gandhi's full legacy, or Gandhi's full legacy, Nehru's full legacy, Sardar Patel's full legacy, Bose and Vivekananda's full legacy. इनको
But
डिबेट करने दो, इनको लोगों को
I think it might be a little too early
या
to debate full legacies. It
या
just because India is a very young country. I think we still have a few years to go before that. See, I always say that we still. I mean, my grandmother passed away last year, right? And she would talk to me about Nehru, seeing Nehru, listening to Nehru. So you still have the first generation of Indians who have actually seen these people live, like seen these people campaign, heard them,
या
gone to agitate. So, for she tells me, she's like, I have a lot of I have a lot of issues with many of the leaders there, but जब independence हुआ था ना, तो after the 10 years we just were in, I mean, because it was such a profound moment after
ओ या
like so many years कि we were unable to question the same way because वो हो ही जाता है, right?
ऑफ
Because
कोर्स
हाँ, so she मुझे बहुत truthfully बोलती थी कि
हाँ
if you want a dispassionate analysis, it will unfortunately have to be after my generation is gone.
yeah, that I agree, only
Yeah.
future will tell
And
how.
I cannot quote others on them. I can only quote my dear grandmother because she was honest enough to admit it and tell me
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
digressed on to Punjab. The reason why I'm so happy to see that the parades and all of that is it shows the real heroes, the real patriots, the army, the paramilitary forces, those young girls who are performing daredevil acts, right? That is the Punjab. That is the Punjabi youth that I feel sorry about with this kind of chaotic politics that they are witnessing with badder and baddest choices. कितना work choice हो सकता है बोलो, that fellow, the drunkard fellow who is that arm
Yeah.
Aadmi Party chief
No,
minister.
unfortunately, yeah. So I mean, this is actually a very interesting discussion you brought, right? And I mean, I'm not personally privy to Mr. Man's things, but there was a debate on, I think, Barkha's show where someone said ki Tavleen, or someone said ki Punjabis won't have a problem with someone who takes two drinks, and Shivam Vij, who I disagree with many times, actually said ki Tavleen, this is not a problem of do drink pee liye, there's a problem of drunkenness, accusations of drunkenness.
Drunkard.
Yeah.
That's why I said
No, no,
drunkard,
yeah. So
not
if
with
you,
drinks.
yeah. So if you, I mean, I myself enjoy a drink or two, occasionally. But my point is, they said that this is not some occasional debate whether someone enjoys a scotch or not. That's a whole different thing. But you cannot just, show up to places drunk. That is not on. So
Yeah.
those are the accusations. But Aam Aadmi Party is, let's face it, is the leading right now. Honestly, some would say that had they not named a CM face, they had a better chance because this might actually push away a lot of the Hindu vote that they were getting. The naming of Bhagwat Man, because last time that's what happened.
Yeah.
Last time Aam Aadmi Party was in front, and then they sided with these, so-called old, the Khalistani
Yeah.
elements, not overtly, but एक दो controversial नाम के साथ जुड़ गए थे, and that's what hit them hard. And Amrinder came, and Captain is firmly opposed to the same elements, right? So here are the four forces for our listeners. I want to, or viewers, I want to tell before I come to you, Pramod. Combinations. One is the Akali Dal BSP combo. The second is the Aam Aadmi Party. I don't know if they've tied up with some chota mota party here or there, but it's primarily Aam Aadmi Party. Third is the Congress, and Congress. I call Congress a combo of the Chennai faction and the Sidhu faction. अभी देखते हैं कौन सा faction ज़्यादा फटेगा. But those are the three. And there is also apparently Manish Tiwari faction. And the fourth is the BJP and Amrinder Singh alliance. Now, the BJP Amrinder Singh alliance, contrary to what a lot of people are saying, on internet, I honestly don't see them crossing more than 5 seats. That is me being very optimistic here, because BJP on its own cannot win more than 4 or 5 seats in Punjab because of the urban base issues and stuff, and especially with post the farm laws sort of situation. But with captain, captain gets this little bit of, the old school voters, the old Congress voters who are not completely inimical to the BJP, might come back, who are sort of centrist and so forth. So उन दोनों का मिला के कुछ उनका 5-6% के आसपास का चांस है. I'm just, in the Patiala belt where the captain is strong, and then, in the Firozpur, Hoshiarpur urban seats where BJP has, some presence. Now that is one. That so there'll be minor players. The question is whether this is going to be a trifecta between Akalis, Congress, and Aam Aadmi Party. Right now, it seems to be a two-horse race between the Congress and Aam Aadmi Party, with Akali holding a few strongholds. Now, what do you, having given this background, Pramod, what is your analysis?
Well, I firmly believe Aam Aadmi Party is going to form the government with some support from Akali Dal and BSP.
Hmm.
This combination is very utilitarian for them. BSP also caters to the same constituency, the Dalit vote in in Punjab, which the Congress and also the Aam Aadmi Party quote. तो
Hmm.
उनके लिए तो वो सेम वोट है, मे बी डिसिडेंट कैंडिडेट्स का वोट होगा.
Hmm.
And the Akalis have been talking to Aam Aadmi Party for a long time, because the Akalis do have their vote share in Delhi as well, if you remember.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very mutually beneficial relationship. So
Hmm.
my prediction is Aam Aadmi Party will form the government,
Hmm.
but they'll have to replace the chief minister candidate eventually, not right away, which I think they will do it very easily. Or surprise, surprise, the Akalis, the BJP, and Mr. Amarinder Singh might lay claim, but eventually not at the first, because they will not have the number of seats to lay claim initially. But
Hmm.
eventually, kya pata, BSP can always turn back to
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So
I
it all
mean,
depends.
I won't put it
Congress
past.
is not coming back to power for sure.
Yeah,
This,
that's what it seems like.
yeah.
And very interestingly, a lot of people forget that the BSP actually is a very interesting combination. So the BSP has its roots in Punjab. The founder Kanshi Ram actually is a Punjabi, and or was. I mean, he passed away. But what is
Correct.
interesting is, in Punjab, the earlier combo was Akali would fight about 94 seats and BJP would fight 23. Now, in 2007 and 2012, BJP did phenomenally well. They got 12 out of 23 in 2007, 19 out of 23, which is almost a
Yeah.
90% strike rate. And then last time also 2012, sorry, not last time, 2012, they got 12 out of 23, which is still a sizable number. Now, because of the anti-incumbency of 10 years and issues with the whole Akalis and stuff like that, BJP was reduced to one seat. And Akalis were actually Akalis did pretty well. I mean, they held on to a little bit of their base, but the Hindu vote on sort of migrated towards the Congress, and Captain did that. But as we have seen, the Congress is a master in harakiri, so they actually had their own internal fights with Sidhu, being promised, or maybe he thought himself, like, वो कि अगर मैं CM बन जाऊंगा, or whatever. So he basically led this sort of a coup, or tried to get a coup against the captain, and the captain, of course, got mad, and the result is there to see. Now, here comes the current scenario of the Akali Dal situation. So last time, actually, even though Congress did well, Congress actually lost 1.5% of the vote share. The only party to gain was Aam Aadmi Party. So almost every party except for this Lok Insaf party lost a lot of votes. Akalis lost 10%, BJP lost about 2%, and Aam Aadmi got about 23.5% of the votes. And although they got 5 seats more than Akali, they have a little bit less vote share. Here is where it gets very interesting. The Bahujan Samaj Party always had a 5% vote share in Punjab, 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Last year it was reduced to 1.5, which is about 2.5 lakh votes, but they always have about 4 or 5% vote share. Now, BJP used to have about 8 9%, and that is what the Akalis lost. They have managed to replace the 8 9% that the BJP had with five
With the
percent
5%. Yeah.
Now, one has to BJP and BSP are both different caste blocks and different societal blocks vote for the BJP and BSP in Punjab. But ultimately, when it comes to the Dalit vote, or the non the non OBC Dalit vote, and the non OBC vote and stuff like that, that BJP and BSP to some extent in UP are competing. I don't know if in Punjab they are that relevant to compete for those votes. So that is what we have to see. So Akali and BSP, I think, could be a very potent combination.
But what are your numbers saying? Your numbers are gear. I think you had said Aam Aadmi Party was obviously gearing towards getting a majority of its
Yeah, yeah.
seats, or is it close to?
I think right now, from the trends, and I've talked to friends who are doing some polls as well, Aam
Yeah.
Aadmi Party is getting close to the number of six. Like the magic number is less than 60. It's 117, so I think it's 59 you need. But I think Aam Aadmi Party is comfortably touching 60 right now. But the key here again, because it all is one phase election, and then Punjab elections had to be pushed back, because of the conflict, with the days. So I think now it's on 17th February, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
In
so
fact, Arvind Kejriwal yesterday made the statement asking for a tough conversion law, which he wouldn't have made anywhere else but in Punjab, knowing that the sentiment is in favor of Aam Aadmi Party and that there is a growing there is a lot of conversions happening of the Sikhs, by the way, not the Dalits, but the Sikhs in at least the Gurdaspur district and those four
yeah,
or five districts,
but
right?
also,
So,
and people forget that Punjab has one of the highest Dalit populations in India. It's close to
yeah,
about 30%, right?
yeah,
And there is Akalis, and so Akalis' primary base is in the Jat vote, and then they get other
yeah,
subcomponent, subcastes, and other as well. But so that's their thing, that you get the two big chunks of the
yeah,
vote with that's their goal, at least, right?
right,
Now, the where Aam Aadmi Party is scoring is that it is getting some of the Jat vote, it is getting some of some of the Dalit Sikh vote as well, but it is also getting quite a bit of the Hindu vote. So
yeah,
this and non-conversion, and that vote that went to Congress and
of
Amrinder Singh
course.
last year is coming to Kejriwal this time.
Kejriwal, yeah, yeah. No, no. I think Punjab has decided to give Aam Aadmi Party a chance, and we'll have to see how that politics plays
Yeah.
out. And
What is fascinating is, again, with the BJP Punjab, and then Dhindsa's party, right? So Sukhdev Singh Dhindsa, who's the old school Akali Dal leader, is the president of the Shiromani Akali Dal Samyukt, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's probably, I don't know if he's still in the Rajya Sabha or not, but his Rajya Sabha seat probably goes away this year if he is. But he's from Sangrur, right? So what they are hoping is that Mr. Dhindsa, who was a minister of sports chemicals fertilizers in the Vajpayee government, is also gets in a few votes from the old Akali belt. You
right,
know, in, and let's see. But of course, Bhagwant Mann rose to where he is by defeating Mr. Dindsa in the Lok Sabha election. So it's going to be a very interesting.
very
Also,
interesting for both for all practical reasons. I think BJP at this point in time uh, is just going to have to wait and see how these numbers come in, but it will probably have to go back in an alliance with Shiromani Akali Dal eventually.
I
But
think they know that, and the
yeah,
Akali Dal is secretly hoping for that as well. I
yeah,
think the Akali Dal's best situation is they end up around 50 with
yeah,
BSP with 1 or 2 seats,
right.
and somehow BJP manages to get about 9 or 10 seats, or at least 6 or 7 seats, and they can all play patch up, because whatever one have against Akali Dal and so forth, their alliance seemed to work on, and
Yeah, yeah, and whatever their apprehensions was on the farm laws, anyway, the farm laws are politically. I think
yeah.
they took a decision to withdraw it for this very reason. So
Yeah,
Uh,
and potentially it could also happen that if the Congress is reduced, because Chennai is not going away that easily, but if the Congress is reduced to 15-20 seats, and Aam Aadmi Party does get about 60-62 seats, the Akali and BJP could just become a joint force in the opposition,
right.
and just make sure to, because ultimately, I mean, Mr. Prakash Singh Badal, who's still fighting elections, by the way, is 98 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So ultimately it is Sukhbir that's going to be
Right.
calling the shots. And I think it was a sort of a decided thing that Sukhbir would do in Punjab, and his wife Harsimrat would be the leader in the Lok Sabha
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Delhi.
How about
So
Goa? Do you want to talk about Goa a little bit and see if
yeah, we can talk about little bit about Goa, and then we'll
yeah.
go to mini Punjab, that is Canada, before we end the podcast.
उ- उ- उड़ने वाला पंजाब, कनाडा इज उड़ता पंजाब नहीं, उड़ने वाला पंजाब.
Goa, okay. I would urge everyone. I did almost a 1 hour 20-minute discussions with Kushal on Goa. If you haven't, please check out that discussion. Just because, मैं मतलब I covered every single election from from Goa from 1962 onwards. Goa is the most craziest political place in India. For people who don't know, from 1984 to 1999, I think I did the math, and out of 15 years and 3 elections, Goa had 13 chief ministers.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is unbelievable. Like, some of them came for second term, so 13 terms, including president's rule and all. And it is crazy where, but Goa, mein literally everyone is everywhere. Like, there is no ideology and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not talking about Mr. Parikar, Manohar Parikar, who passed away. He was very firmly committed
Yeah.
ideologically and stuff. And BJP also has some very strong leaders, workers, and stuff, and Congress has a few. But then there are a few MLAs that have gone across parties. They have
Oh,
gone, like, they have made parties like Progressive Congress. Then there was a guy, I found out he was an ex chief minister. He merged his party with NCP,
yeah.
and his brother, who was another MLA, he merged his faction with BJP. This
Huh.
is about 10 years ago. So I mean, it is completely wild. It's a political thriller. What is interesting, Goa has more formations than Punjab. Even though Goa has a third of the seats in than Punjab, Goa has more formation. So let me just walk you through what are the formations in Goa. You have the BJP alliance, where BJP is actually contesting all the seats. No alliance. um, Congress has contested with Mr. Vijay Sardesai. Mr. Vijay Sardesai actually was a minister in, or his party was an alliance in with the NDA. He was a minister in the last government, but he's of course gone over to the UPA. So he's doing three. Then you have Aam Aadmi Party, who's contesting 39 seats, but Aam Aadmi Party has some sort of ex-leaders and things like that. Then you have the All India Trinamool Congress, where apparently AITC is contesting with Maharashtravadi Gomantak Party, the MGP. MGP used to be the party of the, so-called party of the Hindus, or party of the North. Used to get a lot of the Hindu votes when Mr. Bandodkar was the CM and stuff. But post 1991, there it went down and down. So MGP in 2012 contested in alliance with BJP. They won a stupendous majority. Then in 2017, it was not in alliance with BJP. BJP won 13 seats, Congress won 17 seats or 16 seats. But MGP and Vijay Sardesai and all got together and said, if you make Manohar Parikar the chief minister or something, we will support you. So Manohar Parikar, who was the defense minister, was actually brought back to
Brought
Goa,
back. Yeah.
made the CM and stuff. Unfortunately for BJP, and unfortunately for us, I mean, all political watchers, Parikar was a phenomenal, very non-corrupt leader. He passed away tragically. But that left a huge void. So Mr. Pramod Sawant, who's a very young face, has taken over. And that's what I'm telling. Like, you have Mr. the Rane family, Pratap Singh Rane's son and daughter-in-law fighting on BJP symbol, who are the old school families. But then you also have Mr. Pramod Sawant leading the BJP, who's a very humble man, came from very humble, origin and stuff. So how this balance of power works in Goa, I don't know, right? And apparently there is a fifth alliance also. Before I run out of breath, which is the most insane alliance of them all, NCP and Shiv Sena.
Well, we used to have,
Yes.
it is it is such a concoction कि एक बीच के बाद एक बीच तुरंत जैसे गोवा में आ जाता है, वन वन बीच after the other. This politics of Goa is never going to be set to rest until the time some good leader like Manohar Parikar, who is a once in a lifetime sort of a leader, right? The reforms he's instituted in the defense ministry is why we have this defense corridors, and the
Yeah,
progress
absolutely.
we are making in UP solely is because of that defense corridor, and all credit to Manohar Parikar.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, again, most of the systems there are family based, and his son has created a big headache for BJP by laying stake to whatever his father's legacy is. You can't do that in the BJP, and it's very unfortunate that the BJP has this policy of not encouraging their own children, which should be junked. I'm 100% sure in the future it should be junked because
No,
it's
I
unfair.
know.
It's
So
very unfair. It's
you know,
unfair. Uh,
here I have disagreement in parts, right? Because I honestly don't know how tough it is to
uh,
win that seat right now.
Well, he's made it super tough for everybody because there's so much of respect for Manohar Parikar across the political spectrum. As
Yeah.
an independent, if he wins, he might emerge as a force in the future because remember, everybody used to respect Manohar Parikar because that's the nature of that person, right? We
Who?
don't know what the son will bring to the table.
No, but
He
here is
might.
my point, right, Pramod? Who knows if the BJP doesn't secretly want this as well? If you
Oh,
ask,
they
if
they
you
are
ask
they are they
if
are.
you ask the
If the
central
politicians.
BJP or many people in hushed tones that the BJP
Yes.
nominee, if the BJP nominee is defeated and Utpal Parikar is an independent and who extends support to the BJP government, they'll say it's ideal. उसने अपने आप को prove भी कर
Yeah,
लिया है.
yeah.
He will take the seat and sit on it. Like he can win it for like 15 years now
Oh,
if
yeah.
he manages to
Yeah,
do it.
we will see. Again, it's also BJP, a new BJP that is testing every political air to the maximum and seeing if they really have
Yeah.
the political potential and the will to stand like their father, right? क्या पता अनंत कुमार की बेटी है अभी दो दो बेटियां हैं and his wife was denied the seat in favor of Tejasvi Surya right now, but that doesn't mean that these political heirs are pushovers. They have to prove themselves and obviously they will get
Yeah,
their own destiny.
on the
But
contrary, I'm fine with it.
I
If
ha- yeah, I
yeah,
have a prediction.
I think it's a move they took to seeing winnability, and if Utpal Parikar thinks that he can push it or swing it away, more power to him.
I have a prediction for Goa. Goa is going to go to Congress this time because the
Mm,
Congress will have the ability to cook up all sorts of coalitions, and Digambar Kamath and a couple of other leaders are at least at this point in time they don't have the kind of overt sort of infighting that is happening in the BJP. They don't have that problem.
I have a prediction this time in Goa is probably Goa. The BJP and Congress are both going to end up with a similar number of seats, and then it is the real, जैसे रवि शास्त्री का title है ना कि cricket is the real winner. So the real winner is going to be resort owners of Maharashtra and Karnataka.
Yeah,
Because if you look, Maharashtra is owned by one coalition and Karnataka is owned by the other.
yeah,
So
it is. Yeah.
those are going to be the real winner. So we'll see क्या होता है. But we have gone way over time than what we predicted. But ये तो होना ही था. Mind makers की खासियत
सात
ही ये
साल
है कि
अरे
हाँ
7 साल पूरे हुए हैं.
yes,
Congratulations to you.
yes,
Congratulations to everybody who's made it.
7 साल बेमिसाल.
Yeah, it's a tough journey. So we've
It is. It is.
really laid a good foundation.
Like I keep telling everyone, guys, we are in here to converse, learn,
Yeah, yeah.
talk, discuss. We are not here to just sit on our high chairs and observe and stuff. So write to us, read, write, comment. Tell us where we are going wrong, and or थोड़ी पीठ भी थपथपाना if you think we are doing some stuff right.
Yeah, in
In
these seven
instead of
years, I know that we always have our recommendations for films and books, but the most satisfactory moment for me personally has been the launch of Mind Book as a product, where we focus only on this yearbook is only focused on facts, figures, statistics, but then it also enables us to become part of the competitive exams. जब कोई IAS IPS के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहा है UPSC या NDA एग्जाम के लिए and I see mind book on their desk, it gives me immense satisfaction क्योंकि you and I also prepared for competitive exams in India. That whole environment is different, and if we are able to see this the thought of nationalism and give them some facts and figures for them to utilize as a a professional in the future. I'm very satisfied that way. And we have made so many friends. Being a centrist media बहुत मुश्किल होता है ना. It's very difficult for us to take sides and go away from relationships made over the years. But I'm very glad under your stewardship and also Rama Harita now as the editor, we have stood the ground and we have published thousands. I think we have probably published thousands of articles and incubated, I would say, no less than 500-600 writers. Adit,
Yeah,
am
yeah.
I wrong in my? So yeah, yeah,
I don't know the exact number, but I mean, I wouldn't want to know the exact number.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm
the
very happy that you're still inundated with so many responses we get, feedback we get. We're constantly getting good suggestions to improve our look and feel. It's a work in progress, guys. It's thanks to all of you, all of your support. We are here, and we'll continue to be here.
और बहुत कुछ हो रहा है. Just let's
Yeah.
what all we'll say is thank you for the faith you've shown us. Don't lose patience with us. We are learning. We are slowly getting there. So thank you for all the faith you've shown us. But enough with our emotions or our emotional journey. What we want to focus now is basically talk about, again, we've not had enough time to talk about Canada and stuff, and we'll talk a little bit more in the next podcast. One thing, and maybe I'll get a couple of people
No,
from
no. I,
Canada.
ha- I have a good pun on Canada. You go ahead with your analysis.
No, my thing is, I don't need to. I personally have no position on what is happening in Canada. That's for the local politicians, leaders of opposition, and the leaders of the government to decide. My only point is when Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh make uninformed comments on India, or whatever protests are happening in India without knowing absolutely a head or tail of what the situation is. Jagmeet Singh is going on that Lily Singh show and saying whatever he is. My point is they have no idea how these farm laws are helping the farmers and stuff. There is a minor percentage of the population in Canada who is invested in Punjab or Haryana or whatever state, and who might not be benefited if these farm laws had gone through. So they were goading on their leaders to make statements, and to placate to them if they make such uninformed statements, that is quite pathetic. So now when the same protests are happening in their country, now they are like, "Arey, don't do protests," things like that. Why? Like, I think the Indian political leaders ought to come out and say, "Okay, we all are in support of a free and fair dialogue in Canada." And like I said, I have no position on the protests or the leaders. That is for Canadians to decide. For what it's worth, Pramod and I both have been vaccinated, so we are absolutely pro-vaccines and stuff. But
Uh,
the point is on the hypocrisy of it all.
छोटा सा देश है. They have so much land and they have exploited their natural resources. They have killed their indigenous tribes. They have made life worse for
Mm,
many, many workers who are in the timber business. They have, essentially erected a very exploitative economy that eventually, as a satellite of the United States, was going to fall one day or the other. You see what's happening to Sri Lanka. You see what's happening to Nepal.
mm,
The
mm,
debt crisis they are going to. That was going to happen to Canada and Mexico one day or the other.
mm,
But when you are besought with so much problems और अपने घर में इतने आपके प्रॉब्लम हैं
mm.
और आप सबको वर्ल्ड में कनाडा ड्राई बेच रहे हो. अब देखो कनाडा ड्राई ही होगा.
Yeah.
ड्राई ड्राई ड्राई. क्यों ड्राई होगा? Because you, instead of making lives better for your own people,
Mm,
you've invested time and energy and resources in commenting and making things happen. All of those money that came in from Canada. NIA's team landed in Toronto about a few months ago to try to investigate the money trail. Adit, Canada का जो हाथ है in silently trying to side with such anti-government activities,
mm.
karma is always going to pay back. पियो
What
कनाडा ड्राई खालिस्तानियों के साथ पियो.
a sad state of affairs. And I hope for the sake of Canadians, there is resolution reached. But my point is, don't comment on, like, this is a very sensitive issue with the whole 1984 post 1984 thing, and Trudeau is skating on some really thin ice. And this is not just me saying, just listen to what Amarinder Singh had to say when Trudeau was doing Dancing with Bollywood Stars in India. He refused to go and meet certain members that
Yeah,
Trudeau was with them because of their controversial links, right? So I think Canada has to be very, very, very careful in
yeah,
what they're doing.
yeah. It's good.
So,
Finally,
and I'm saying as someone who actually thinks India and Canada share a strong bond. I mean, I talk to Canadians. It's a lovely country. Love visiting there. But my
there are
point
some
is,
great Canadians. I love them, but Canada is going woke. It was already woke, but it is
नहीं,
going
but
into
ये
the
वो भी नहीं है. I
woke.
don't think it's a this is a country issue. I think this is a few leaders. What this Jagmeet and
Possibly,
Pindu are saying.
possibly,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah, possibly.
It is because I talked to a few friends there, and they have been saying that a lot
Yeah,
of this, what is happening, is spontaneous and stuff. And again, like I said, you can have your positions on the protests and stuff, but what I want people to know is, it's a very, there are sensitive issues in other countries too, and as allies you support them in finding resolutions as two democratic allies. And I hope India and Canada, become even stronger.
I support anybody who wants to hoist the flag of Khalistan in Canada.
You what?
Support anybody who wants to raise and make a land and territory for themselves in called
Ajay,
Khalistan in Canada.
in Canada. The wording of that statement confused me. But in any case, yeah. Anyways, we are at the end of the podcast. Some recommendations. Pramod, my friend, you have turning yourself into a Telugu Anupama Chopra, I heard.
I love all the new Telugu films that
And
are getting.
with due respect to Anupama Chopra, the reason I said it is because Pramod has been reviewing a lot of Telugu movies and
I
things.
have
So I was like,
really.
before, don't jump on me. This was just a joke.
I know it is a joke, but the joke is on all of us that the films that are not of that kind of quality that you would relish, when you see Bahubali, whatever it is, fictional story and all that. I have not seen Akhanda, by the way. They are saying good things about Akhanda. मैंने देखी नहीं है. But Telugu films are known for a certain genre, which is uh, it is for fiction, but
Hmm.
it is epic based fiction. मतलब it is not disrespectful of the epic.
Yeah.
मतलब अगर आप देखोगे खारावेला का कोई period film निकालोगे, right? Kharavela will be made to look like the most handsome prince ever. He may or may not be. That's a
Yeah.
different story. But इंडिया में जो हिस्टोरी ग्राफर्स है ना, वो सब पता नहीं why they graced Telugu film industry to give such scripts.
Hmm.
That's all it is.
Hmm.
Beginning from the 1950s to N.T. Ramarao and great films like Maya Bazaar till Bahubali, both genre was the forte of Telugu film industry.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
no way nobody can come even distant tenth.
Hmm.
But I did not like that movies like Pushpa. Pushpa में है क्या भाई? एक वीरप्पन जैसा बंदा है जो अजीब अजीब डांस कर रहा है. इट्स मसाला फिल्म. वो भी हिट हो गया है. वो नॉर्थ
No,
इंडिया
so
में
I'll
भी.
tell you this. I watched Pushpa, right?
हाँ,
It's an entertaining time pass
ठीक
film
ही
to
है,
watch.
ठीक ही
There
है.
are
I'm not
about
saying हाँ.
30, 35 minutes, which are, I'm like, what the heck is happening? So I
Yeah,
forwarded them because I couldn't. And neither am I besotted with that insane
ये
song.
ये वाला वो
Yeah,
वाला.
no, that song that seems to be playing everywhere. I'm like, MM Cream's soundtrack for Bahubali is infinitely superior. I mean, the fact
हाँ,
that and even in Bahubali, I think Bahubali 1 is a better movie than Bahubali 2, because Bahubali 2 me, I just think Rajamouli was very aware of what he was making. So there are
हाँ,
a few scenes which needn't have been loud, but
yeah.
were made a very loud for the certain city in the theater, right? I think Bahubali 2 in parts became a Rajnikant movie because he wanted to. But I still love Rajamouli's vision. The man has insane vision.
अरे अगर सच में राजा रजवाड़ों के ऊपर या द ग्रेट अचीवमेंट्स इन द पास्ट के ऊपर फिल्म्स निकालने हैं, ओनली तेलुगु फिल्म इंडस्ट्री हैज ऑल द प्रॉप्स एंड द मटेरियल बिकॉज ऑफ द स्टूडियोज. दैट्स व्हाट एनटी रामाराव ग्रेट कंट्रीब्यूशन इज कि इसका बेटा भी he has made some really good films which every north indian will like had it been dubbed. In the past also एक
Hmm.
film है जिसमें there is a time machine that goes back to Sri Krishna Devaraya time, and then again it fast forwards to the future of 500 years when there is a nuclear war happened and all the cities are underground. Spectacular movie. It's called Aditya 369. Everybody worldwide will like it. इतनी अच्छी फिल्मोग्राफी है. Okay,
No, and
but
हाँ,
पुष्पा इज अ
sorry.
हिट, मैं क्या करूं, क्या
No,
करूं, पुष्पा इज अ
no, no, but वो तो ठीक है. I mean, the thing is, the thing that works here is, I think regional cinema, thanks to Amazon, is getting a
राइट,
huge
राइट.
boost. I mean,
Also, हाँ,
we
but there's
have
also
to.
a very nationalistic sentiment, Adit, where films that don't offend Indian culture also, ये मैंने देखा सोशल मीडिया में जो buzz है ना, it's
Hmm.
because people are so upset with Bollywood for portraying whatever in Ganga Jamni Tahzeeb or whatever. They are just throwing money at anything that is
Not,
pro.
no, not just that. I'll tell you
Uh,
what has happened is, right. We, like in Bollywood also, there was sort of a possession in their head कि कुछ को ऐसे ही दिखाना है, कुछ को ऐसे ही दिखाना है. When you listen to the producers talking to, Dhanupama Chopra, Rajiv Masa, they'll say कि हाँ ये star का ये
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
You won't name them, right? But what had happened was कि they had stopped taking on bold subjects,
Oh yeah,
but you have Sardar Udham, which
yeah,
was a phenomenal film. I mean, and there are some of the Hindi movies that I've watched. I watched Hum Do Hamare Do, very light-hearted, enjoyable movie and stuff. All these are streaming movies, right? Some of the work that Ayushman has done, right? Very, very Indic,
yeah, yeah.
those centered movies, right? I would rather watch movies like than shit like Dilwale. I mean, or
Yeah.
Fan. I mean, it's just unbearable to watch.
No, I think it's also the realization that अपने history में ही इतना content पड़ा हुआ है ना.
Hmm.
If some of them are made into socio fantasy sort of movies
Hmm.
where you can part fictionalize it without disrespecting anybody, of course,
Hmm.
there's a lot of subjects that can be made, and that's what Telugu films has been making. Suddenly,
One
it got recognized after
one
how many?
interesting thing that I've noticed is Indian movies also love a conflict. I don't think Indian movies Indian viewers don't like सीधा साधा happy movies anymore.
ना ना, of course, we're very mature audience है. इतने हजार, I mean,
Yeah,
कितने साल हो गए ना,
because what
बहुत.
is interesting is you have 83, which was a very I watched 83. I think 83 had parts. I mean, it was a very decently made movie. There are a
Yeah,
couple of things I didn't agree with and stuff, but overall its heart was in the right place. And it is a brilliant underdog story.
yeah,
But I think there were a few conflicts that Kabir deliberately played down because he didn't want any cricketer to get mad and things like
हाँ.
that. And I think that might have weighed because ultimately कोविड की वजह से भी मूवी थोड़ी फ्लॉप हो गई. बट आई कांट फॉर द लाइफ ऑफ मी अंडरस्टैंड हाउ पुष्पा इज अ हिट एंड 83 इज नॉट. इफ
It's sad. It's
both were
sad because
released at
that's
the
what I'm
same.
saying. Quality, top quality movies. Maybe Akhanda is a top quality. मैंने नहीं देखी है, but you know that is where the audience has probably gotten the kind of much needed respite. And there's a lot of anti-Bollywood sentiment, rightfully so, also because of this overplaying of.
Huh, but the reason I felt sad is that 83 is not a Bollywood
It's a
triumph.
national
It's
movie
it's a
actually.
triumph. It's a triumph of India, and
Yeah,
but you can't force people to watch it, right? The movie
yeah.
has some of its flaws, and
At
this
the
is
end of the
Kabir,
day,
and this is Kabir, the documentary maker, making the movie, right? And
I
for all people having issues with Bollywood, ultimately, what is going to happen is
yeah,
when
yeah.
number analysis is done, Bajrangi Bhaijaan would have made 500 crores more than 1983.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but there are so many interesting subjects that are coming out because of pent up demand. हो सकता है कोविड की वजह से 2 साल तक रुक गए projects. Lot of good movies are coming out. I'm really looking forward to some
Let's
movies.
see which files open and which files close, but we'll
Yeah,
see क्या होता है क्या नहीं होता है. So
yeah.
guys, please watch, subscribe, like, let us know what you think about what we said, and we'll be back with more next week. Thanks Pramod for joining as always,
Bye.
and we'll be back. Thank you guys.